On this very special episode of ADHd20, Matt and Allison talk about ADHD and grief. Heavy sigh. Heavy sigh.
And then we solve all the world's problems with tabletop role-playing games.
What's up, Allison?
Oh, not much. Just watching the fall of society.
Yeah.
Doom, gloom, gnashing of teeth.
I know.
What is up with you, Matthew?
Pretty much the same. Doom, gloom, the gnashing of teeth, and everybody. Just some warnings for this episode. We're definitely not telling you in any way, dear listeners, to feel a certain way. You might be extremely happy with the way that the United States elections went this week. And if so, then you might not like what we're about to say. You might not like us. You might not like...
And I feel okay with that.
We
I
disagree.
just want to make that very clear.
Yeah. This is ADHd20. It is a podcast where we find the intersection between ADHD and
TTRPGs and politics.
And politics today.
Grief.
And grief today. Because... we're allowed. This is a podcast that we're allowed to say what we want to say, and people either like it or they don't like it, and all of it's fine. And if it doesn't align with you, much like our jibber jabber about Dungeons and Dragons incessantly and all role-playing games, if that doesn't align with you, you know what to do. We'll be back next month, week, whatever it is.
I mean, I think, whenever we feel like filming the next one. My train of thought just left the station without me because this is ADHd20 and that's what happens.
I know.
We came up with this topic. It kind of jolted into my brain and I said, that's a thing that we could talk about. So what I noticed last week, we are in just for those of you listening to this a couple of weeks from now to paint the timeline, we are in the week following the US election. And so last week, Tuesday happened, we all woke up Wednesday morning to news, whether we were happy or morbidly curious about what's next. And I realized in watching my own, how I dealt with it, and then Matt and many of our other friends, that there seemed to be two emerging camps of how we were dealing with this collective fear and grief and all of the other kind of fallout of the feelings. There seemed to be a camp that I was in of, I need to distract myself. I need to do lots of things. I need to be in community. And then there was the crowd that went, I need to shut down. I need to dissociate. I need to pull myself inward and rest. And let me be very clear. This episode is not about which way is right and which way is wrong.
No.
At all.
No, hell no.
However you needed to get through last week and need to get through
any kinds of grief.
Yeah. Days, weeks, months ahead, whether it's specific to the election or just some other cataclysmic event in your life. I have a hypothesis, and we have no way of proving this other than to go out into the community that we hold so dear. And I do think the community is how we're going to get through this. That is how we're going to weather this storm together. But I had to wonder if the different ways that you and I chose to grieve last week might lean into our ADHD. What am I going to call it? Affliction types? Like the flavor,
what do we used to say?
The flavor of our neurospice.
The flavors, the tenets.
Types, the type of ADHD.
Yeah.
So
the types of ADHD.
And as Matt is always very, very quick to point out, there is so much much of the human brain that has not been mapped. So we're just like out here on a feeling, on a hunch about a lot of the stuff. But we do know that as of right now, in the year of our Lords, 2024, the types of ADHD are inattentive.
Yes.
What's mine?
Impulsive. Impulsive.
And then hybrid.
And then hybrid combined. Yep. Yeah.
And Matt is very much the poster child for inattentive. I am very much the poster child for impulsive. And so one thing that we've enjoyed over the past couple of years of having this podcast is examining things not just from a I'm neurospicy or I have ADHD or I whatever, but rather like how do you deal with that from an inattentive point of view and how do I deal with it from an impulsive point of view?
Yeah.
And so it just seemed to me last week. So, so first of all, I was feeling no pain up until Tuesday. I was delighted and excited. I was thrilled. Right. There was no telling me that this election I thought it was going to be a landslide.
Yeah.
So I go into Tuesday. I think, we got this. We're going to win. I live for election night in America coverage. John King is my boyfriend. Okay.
John King is your boyfriend.
I love him so much. And I couldn't wait all day long to be done with work and turn them on and watch the magic wall and just, and I'm watching and I'm excited and I'm like dancing around the house all night, and then we know what happens next. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, you wake up on Wednesday morning and you're dealing with this level of shock, grief. How are we here again? Deep sighs. So I immediately needed to pour myself into shit to do. I needed to be distracted because if I sat quietly and tried to watch movies or have some peaceful me time, I would be a wreck. So I got busy and became instantly grateful for the pocket dimension. I must say, if you're listening to this, having such an incredible community to wrap my arms around virtually and then just do projects for. Like there's a never ending list of stuff we got to do in order to grow our channel and our community.
Yeah.
And so I found a lot of peace in doing that. I've just talked for a very long time. Matthew, why don't you tell us what your, Tuesday and Wednesday of last week looked like?
Yes, my Tuesday and Wednesday of last week, I got caught up. I allowed myself to get caught up in the excitement that both you and my wife had for the election. I no longer believe in polling. I no longer believe in, I honestly no longer believe anything that I read because I know that I live in a bubble, period. And I don't even check social media as our last episode spoke to. Yeah. So it's not even social media. I think that no matter what I do, I can't get out of the bubble. Yeah. So someone is always going to feed me the things that I want to see and hear. Fine. That's okay. Yeah. Because otherwise, that's one of the reasons I stopped because it would make me upset and angry. So I had enough hope, but I knew that it was close. I knew it was close. And so we took the tactic of not watching, not doing the thing. We spent time with friends and I think we played a game and, it was a very early night. And as you were alluding to, I am better prepared. We are better prepared because we have a community for sure. We have a beautiful community. And we have this beautiful way now to in my mind, healthily escape. Playing games with other people to me is pure mental health joy.
And I do want to talk about that because I had a full weekend of doing exactly that.
You did.
But first, I just realized we didn't do the ADHd20 table, which is so very ADHD. I'm not even going to say we need to cut this back in the broadcast to, I think we should, we got off to a strong start. And so let's have a little interlude now that we've kind of like set the experiences and tone. Let's roll on that. So it's your turn to roll.
The number is 57.
The number is 57. A diddly. Maddie, what D&D class have you not played, or we can amend this to not played much? Maybe in a full, we'll say, have you not played in a campaign? So we'll say one shots won't really count.
Okay.
But want to try. And I also, because we are going in the direction of really just loving a sweet little game called Daggerheart.
Okay, you're gonna help me narrow it down a little bit more.
You could either D&D or Daggerheart. I'm actually kind of opening it up, but just what is something that you were a class that you are curious about and you want to try, and maybe why?
Well, there's so many of Daggerheart I've not played. If there are people that are listening and have no idea what I'm talking about, please go find Daggerheart by Darrington Press and fall in love with it in the same way that we have. Let's see. So let me default back to 5e then.
That's fine.
I have never played a paladin in a campaign.
Ooh.
I've never played a cleric in a campaign. I've barely played a cleric, period. I to be honest, am a little bit afraid of and this is silly. I think it's part of my 10-year-old past that I'm a little bit afraid of the requirements as far as religion goes, and trying to understand a religion. Because I've never had an organized religion be a part of my life. So I think I'm always a little hesitant to drop in, which I know I shouldn't be, but
your fears are
I guess
valid.
I am.
I'll validate
Thanks.
you. But speaking as someone who has been playing a paladin in a really fun campaign for a number of months now with our good friends over at Bladebound Saga,
yes,
I don't, even though I have a deity, it's a minor deity of the world of Exandria from Critical Role is the setting for this campaign, and we specifically picked not one of the big guys for my paladin to kind of be in this oath with, but it's not, everything's made up and the points aren't real, right?
I know. And they dropped the requirements that paladins had to be lawful good, which they had to be back in the day. I mean, you could build something really cool.
Really chaotic.
Someday I would like to. But I think for that reason I would like to. How about you, Allison?
Paladin's your answer?
Yeah.
Paladin's
my answer.
And I will say, to go on a little side quest here, I am playing a paladin, and I love the paladin that I'm playing. I love so much about the campaign and playing in Exandria. But it is a little bit, I don't tend to go martial because I tend to think of martials as kind of like, I'm going to run up and punch it. I'm going to run up and punch it. I'm going to run up and punch it. My fears have been realized in playing this paladin. Pretty much all I'm good for is running up and punching it. And I can do a walloping when it comes to damage if I get my action economy right. But I realize I will go entire fights and all I'm doing is I hit it and then I hit it again. I hit it and I hit it again. So
hit and quit it.
Is this an Allison problem? Am I just not doing it right? Or is this just and maybe that's what some people like about martials.
Is it a 5e problem?
Yeah, is it a 5e? And that can be another, but I will say I'm enjoying playing a paladin. Paladins are great if you want to be the one that comes up and just does an unmerciful amount of damage. Go paladin.
Yeah.
And I am enjoying the backstory of how I became to commune with my deity.
Yes.
But yeah, don't pick paladin if you want a lot of variety in your turns.
Okay.
Or play a paladin better than I am. My answer actually, and I was like, oh no, Matt and I are going to have the same answer. My answer is cleric.
Okay.
I have never really felt drawn to play a cleric for several of the same reasons that you have already given. And also just I do tend to like to be not a martial, but I like to do damage. I like to inflict pain.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. You don't necessarily enjoy the concept of the medic or the support.
I really don't.
Yeah.
I'm selfish like that. I want the glory. But I had so much fun building and playing Gertie McGillicuddy in the Adventures of Bud and Herb. And the good news about cleric is I've watched other really great clerics.
Sure.
Fitz, obviously. is, in our Barovia campaign, is playing a Twilight cleric, and it's so wonderful. And she definitely is bolstering us constantly, but the flavor that she gives everything is so unique and original and inspiring. Yesterday we played a one shot, and our good friend Digital Twisted played a grave cleric, and I always forget how lethal grave clerics can be. So I think that maybe I've been snoozing a little too hard on the cleric, and it might be time to stop judging those for what they are at their most unflavored level.
Give clerics a chance is what you're saying.
Is give clerics. So next campaign, Maddie, you're playing a paladin, okay. I'm playing cleric. Y'all heard it here first.
Clerics. Let's do it. Yeah.
Let us do it. All right. So now that we have gotten through that, we will then shift into the topic at hand. So as we were going through our grief, and it's the where this came from, just full view behind the curtain, is you actually you didn't apologize because you had nothing to apologize for, but you thanked me last week. You said,
I thanked you.
Thank you for seeing me and what I needed, and basically not for the fact that I didn't expect you to get to work, roll up your sleeves, buck up, little chippy.
Right.
I didn't try and rally any troops last week.
I couldn't match your vibe, and I felt like you. Well, a lot of people. I mean, in my heart, I wanted to. Does that make sense? In some ways, I really admire people who can just dive in and let work do the thing. And I have been able to in the past at some points. But yeah, this time I just couldn't.
But do you get that in the same way? I sometimes wish I could turn this little guy off and just rest. Yeah. Go zone out. What is that like?
Of course I do.
What is it like to wake up in the morning and not immediately have 8 million thoughts just going? I wake
can't
up
tell you that.
Going, and I go to sleep going, and all points in between I'm going. And so the people who are I am waking up now.
Yes.
I'm going to go make my breakfast now. I need to zone out for a little bit, so I'm going to go play a video game. I don't understand. What is that like?
That I can do. And we've talked before about how I do struggle more intensely with executive functioning and where to prioritize all of the things I have to do. When I'm in a situation that my brain needs to kind of take some computing power to process, doing things even that I really, really want to do, like editing these podcasts or building worlds, I can't even do that sometimes.
So my hypothesis then, when you said that to me, because there was no part of me last week, and I wish that I could be more like this all the time and not just in the wake of a crisis. Right? If I could remember this as the day-to-day and not get frustrated with people for not dealing with things the way that I deal with things, because that can be very real. I will admit that. But last week I had no expectations for anybody. I was just proud of anybody who managed to survive it. Whatever you needed to do, go do it. And it's fine. And if that is you're unproductive, so be it. But what stood out to me is as the one, and I feel like in a lot of ways, a lot of the time when we look at the four of us in the pocket dimension, it tends to be like Matt and Allison, Evan and Fitz. But I actually feel like this was one way where those were crisscrossed, and it was Allison and Evan and Matt and Fitz. Each had two very different reactions. So Evan and I immediately began we're gonna work, we're gonna make things, we're gonna do stuff. And that's what Evan and I needed to do to get through it, and we made some really cool shit last week.
Yeah, he did.
Matt and you just needed to say.
Matt and Fitz just needed to
Matt and Fitz, sorry.
Me and me.
You and you, and also Fitz.
Yeah. Fitz and I just needed to shut down a little bit, and I can see that. That was interesting.
And so the hypothesis is that my ADHD type is impulsive, right? Mm-hmm. And so there is this little gremlin in me, constantly feeding the machine.
Yes.
And and so I wondered if that was a little gremlin. I wondered if that was the reason I needed to keep going last week. That was my immediate thought is in the wake of this, I have to keep creating weird things. I have to keep creating weird, beautiful things, because the weird, beautiful things are the things that are going to tether us all here when the apocalypse inevitably happens. Dystopia.
It might.
So whereas I had to wonder if with an inattentive ADHD type, you like the way to get through the grief and to process that was to go zzz and just zone out of it.
I think it really was. I think just zoning was just what I needed. And it's funny because I'm headed for a vacation that we booked towards the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to Mexico, we're going to one of our favorite spots. And we specifically booked this just in case.
Smart people.
The results that happened because, you know, my coach says all the time, ADHD brains want to do this, but do not fall into this trap. Don't think that you're going to go to a vacation and vacation is going to be beautiful, life-changing work time. Allow it to be what it is, but at the same time, a break from the norm, a break from the day-to-day does shake you up a lot. And so we knew that. And I am very much looking forward to just staring off into the ocean for hours at end. Yeah. You know, and eating chips and salsa. So yeah, I think that's a really great theory.
I'd like to hear from other people. So
yes,
if
please.
You're listening to this and you're not yet in our Discord, peep the show notes and slide into our Discord and weigh in. If you're watching this on YouTube, same offer applies, but at least you can there use the YouTube comments. Because if you are diagnosed with ADHD, or if you just have a hunch, and as you've been, you know, on your own journey, wherever it is you are, knowing impulsive seems to fit me more, inattentive seems to fit me more, maybe I'm a hybrid, I don't actually know which.
Yeah.
I'm very curious. And it can be specific to current events or just anytime you've had a grief fueled event. How'd you cope? What'd you do? Yeah. What works? What doesn't? Because that's the thing. I've tried the zoning out. I've tried the I'm just going to rest.
Right.
You know, and we did, in fairness to all of us, we did officially declare Wednesday a down day. I wasn't even going to pretend to try and work and be productive. But I did need to create, and those two things, you know, can be very different. So I'm really interested in hearing from other people on this. Truly,
me too.
Because Matt and I do not exist in a vacuum. Life is not the Allison and Matt show.
Okay, so here's a little addendum, a little clarification of that. So you did throw yourself into work that was not as much billable hours as it was work that you want to do, ideas for this channel, like you said, creative things. Does the work that doesn't excite you as much count in that way? If you didn't have the pocket dimension, do you think you'd throw yourself into your client work as much, or did it for you have to be this? Yeah.
It's a good question. That's I now officially can't picture a world in which the pocket dimension doesn't exist because it has enriched my life and changed it so completely. I would have cherry picked as my best guess. I would have I probably would have zoned out, you know, on Wednesday as we all did. And if I chose to pour myself into something, it would have been something, either some aspect that I'd been putting off for a while because I couldn't bill for it, but was genuinely excited about it, or maybe some way to level up myself, you know, in the business that I do. So it wouldn't have been productive in the standard definition. It would have been creating for the sake of creating. And that's what, you know, I realized, I mean, in some sad way, what happened in 2016 paved the way for this, right? This time it wasn't a shock. We knew what to do, and we immediately snapped into attention on it. But in 2016, and I think that's maybe the whole point of this podcast episode for me, is the quicker you can get to understanding this aspect of yourself, the better you're going to be able to weather these storms.
Yes.
There is in all of the woo-woo spouting that I do, I don't ever want to venture into toxic positivity, right? I do genuinely believe that everything is always working out for me. I do genuinely believe that you got to zoom out and see the big picture, and disappointments happen for a reason. I do believe that we are witnessing the dismantling of our governmental structure as it stands now because we need to. It needs to fall the fuck apart. It needs to burn to the ground. And I think that Trump, as much as I loathe everything that he stands for, maybe that's the thing he's doing.
He's part and parcel.
Yeah,
he's part of it.
We got to get rid of the Electoral College, gerrymandering, like all of these different things have got to go. And until we just, to talk in tarot terms for a second, like have our great tower moment where everything just falls apart, and then it's in the rebuilding that the true beauty occurs, right?
Yeah.
So in 2016, I didn't have that. In 2016, I didn't have like that understanding of myself and what I need.
Right.
I had my friends. I don't want anybody listening to this that was my friend prior to 2020 to think I thought I had nothing in 2016, but I didn't have this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
So I was lost. I was dazed. It was weeks, you know, like I was catatonic, you know?
I'm very embarrassed about a lot of the things that I did in 2016. Very embarrassed. I don't like, I tried so hard to understand.
Yes.
Which was such a waste of time.
When I think about the internet arguments that I engaged in, and this time around, like, it's so funny because I tend to put a lot of stories up. I don't do as many feed posts anymore, but I see something that I like hard agree with, and I post it on a story, Instagram, Facebook. And I had posted something, and an old connection of mine that I don't spend that much time around, but I know does sit in opposition to me politically, tried to respond to it, you know, and I just didn't respond because I was like, I'm not going to change their mind. They're clearly not going to change mine. Like, what's the point? If you felt the need to respond to my post and that makes you feel better, be blessed. Go on. But 2016 me absolutely would have been keyboard warrior, fighting the good fight, you know. And now I just know that that's not how my energy is best spent.
So how is it best spent? You're best spent really working on the things that you want to do and you love to do.
Yep. Which then turned into a really fun and chaotic Pocket Dimension Live on Friday.
Right.
You know, just kind of like almost getting back to basics there of like 4 friends yapping on the internet. Yep. And then, and here's where we can really cross into what this podcast is actually about. This podcast meeting ADHd20, not this episode.
Yeah.
We played games all weekend.
We did.
Y'all, if you are still figuring out how your brain works, which is fine, we're all on a journey here. No, there's no early or late or falling behind. Like, you're getting where you need to go when you need to get there. And like,
hell yeah,
get there. Just, you know, I am 42 years old and there's still an abundance of things I'm like,
oh my God.
Oh, wow. About, and I know there are for you as well, Matt.
I'm 50.
I'm about to say it's slightly older than 42. But
always will be slightly older.
Always will be
weird.
Slightly. So weird how time works. But so I played 4. I devoted more than 12 hours to playing TTRPGs and loved every second of it. So I wonder, and maybe this is more research we need to do. Like, when we think about like dopamine, serotonin, like all the different like things that our little neural transmitters are doing things with up here, like, maybe we're not dopamining through TTRPGs. Maybe that's scratching another layer and level. Are we releasing like oxytocin? Are we releasing serotonin? I don't know.
Okay. All right, let's go down that path, because I was actually just thinking that.
Synchronicities, baby.
I was going to say, in your plea to people who are still trying to figure things out and have the same feeling that perhaps fighting people on the internet is not going to get you what you need, let me please recommend a role-playing game. And I'll tell you many reasons why. Number one, we don't talk about politics when we play games. You get this social connection, but then in the game, you get to be whoever you want to be. However you want to be them. You can work out these things. People are not going to judge you for it, within reason, of course, right? Like, but people are not going to judge you for it. In fact, they're going to support you.
Yeah.
And you are going to get this truly therapeutic
Yes.
experience. And as to your point, is it dopamine? Is it what did you say? Oxy? No.
Yeah, I'm looking up oxytocin because there are like
oxytocin.
I
almost said OxyContin.
Not OxyContin. Let's get real clear. And actually, I think that there's and then endorphins.
Endorphins. For me, for sure, working hard on a game to play with our patrons, our community, and I actually didn't know everybody in the group, but I knew that even the strangers were going to be on the same plane as I was, and I didn't talk about politics. I mean, I'm sure that I expressed sadness, but I didn't ask who people voted for.
Right.
I didn't care because in that group, we are equals.
Yep.
And I'm going to learn more about that group in 4 hours than I'm going to learn from anybody who voted for Trump on my neighborhood block. So there's that therapeutic element of just reconnecting to humanity, because what's really dangerous currently about all of this is the loss of connection and community. If I were to find out that someone close to me voted for Trump, I would definitely look at them differently because I don't understand, and I've never understood, and no one has ever explained it to me in a way that I accept. So I just don't ask anymore. And that can be absolutely okay, you know? So the second thing was, what did I say I was going to file away? Dopamine and endorphins.
So I looked them up because I've seen a lot of, if you want me to kind of go through these are the happiness chemicals: serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins, and dopamine. There are different self-care activities. Like if we're feeling a certain way, we can hack them by doing these activities. So dopamine is the reward chemical.
Right.
So dopamining is completing a task, doing self-care activities, eating food, celebrating little wins. So that little yay and cheers go up in our brain, which is why when like our neurospicy brains, you know, we've talked about doing this before. Sometimes like you didn't have something on your to-do list, so then you write it down after you've done it just so you can check it off. I do that.
Oh, absolutely.
That's us.
Two done.
Yeah.
Already done.
That's us hacking our dopamine center, which is reward. Oxytocin is all about love, and not just romantic love, because you can develop oxytocin through playing with a dog, playing with a baby, holding hands, hugging, giving a compliment. So anything that just kind of creates that connection with another being would be promoting oxytocin. Serotonin is the mood stabilizer. And so I think I'm going to kind of walk back my like dopamining TTRPGs, is that maybe we're not dopamining when we are when we're playing TTRPGs. I think we might be serotonining and serotonin.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you've already hit those three chemicals are in play.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a game. Yeah.
So serotonin is the mood stabilizer. So some ideas there: meditating, running, sun exposure, a walk in nature, swimming, cycling. So things that you're like physically doing. I remember having at the beginning of last season, we had our good friend Sarah Mobbs on. Shout out to Sarah Mobbs, and she, talked about like when she needs to. And I think Brittany also brought this up. Man, we've had some good guests. Is like when they're feeling low, they got to go get out in nature. They've got to like literally touch grass. They've got to physically ground themselves to promote the production of serotonin. And then finally, endorphins, which always makes me think of Legally Blonde. Everyone knows exercising gives you endorphins.
Right.
Endorphins make you happy, and happy people just don't kill their husbands. So when you're producing endorphins, laughter, exercises, essential oils, watching a comedy, dark chocolate, and exercising. So you can see, like, you can promote serotonin and endorphins both through physical activity like exercising and things like that. So I think, TTRPGs, you're right, Maddie, do kind of like check off all of those boxes, right? Like there is something like we get, with either the GM, you spend so much time prepping and then your party has a really good time. Clapping rewards, whereas we solve the puzzle or kill the big bad or like whatever it is, we complete the task.
That's dopamine.
That's dopamining right there. Like we are producing oxytocin through connecting with other people, like both in character and then to your point that you just made about like, we know some of these people that we have the pleasure of playing with very, very well, and some are strangers to us.
Right.
And I have yet to have a bad experience with our tables.
Yep.
There have definitely been some people who have come and gone who like, may not perfectly fit the vibe, but nothing has been like disruptive or fully chaotic. Just like,
no,
maybe we're a little too weird for you.
Could be,
and then
or it's just different. I mean, not even just, it's just a different vibe. It's just vibe. Not exactly what you want or.
Yeah. And then serotonin, stabilize the mood stabilizer. So like, that's the thing that can pick me up. If I am down in the dumps, I know that if I have a game I was delighted. I had a game Thursday, I had 2 games Saturday, and I had a game Sunday. And I knew I was going to make it because of those things, because I had those things to look forward to. And if that's not a serotonin boost, I don't know what is. And then, I was feeling no pain with the endorphins produced in the sessions.
Yeah.
I love that. It's all of them. It's not
all of
one
them.
thing.
I think it's every single one. And I would say for me, at least, prepping for these games is also extremely, I think that would be my serotonin. And I love learning new things. I love reading, and I love disappearing into all worlds that are not my own, but also my own, and making connections for me when I've been thinking about a timeline of our, the world that we shared together, thinking about what happened where and why did this happen and what is this land mass and why did this land mass, why was this created and why do these elves live over there, and like that's a puzzle. I can't sit down and do a jigsaw puzzle, but man, I can spend hours.
Build a world.
It's the same thing for me. It's just like it's pieces that I need to make fit. I think that's probably what drew me to music and programming as well. It's just
makes sense.
Yeah. So, 100%. It's got everything there for you, and I think that if you're ever having a hard time with grief, it's worth a try. It's worth a try because it really is a truly healthy way to leave your troubles behind for a minute. It's not drinking or drugs. I love drinking and drugs. I'm not knocking anybody but it is a healthier way of doing it.
And y'all have me labeled. No, just kidding.
I love drinking and drugs. That's the only quote that I ever. I love drinking and drugs. Matthew Bivens,
2024.
No, I just you know what I'm saying.
I do.
Those things can be dangerous. Those things can be unhealthy, and this is not. It's not unhealthy. It's just not.
I was just thinking as you were talking, something that has been so important to me recently that has made all the difference in my life in the past few years has been getting into community. And so then I, my little brain went, okay, so how does community differ from friendship? And I think like I have a really close friend group here in Charlotte, and love them dearly. And we are a community, but it's more like a broad spectrum.
Yes.
Whereas like a community is like, we're rallying around this thing. And it could be a broad thing like nerd culture. Like, I'm not saying that like, you have to be into underwater
Super
basket
niche.
weaving in order for it to be considered a community.
Did you say underwater basket?
Yeah, that's how you
weaving?
make the reeds like flexible enough to be woven. That's a real thing.
Oh my god!
But
I love
true
it.
story.
I didn't know that.
Like anytime I like in college, I would hear like people. I feel like underwater basket weaving is one of those like throwaway things that people say. Like that's what I major in just to be silly. But like, so I was picturing somebody in like scuba gear, like diving to the
Yes.
ocean's floor and making a basket. No, it's just that
Me
you
too.
have the reeds in a bowl
Oh,
submerged in
underwater.
water, so that way
Okay.
that you literally can weave the fibers together.
That's why they're so expensive.
That's why they're so expensive, because somebody has to go, like down to the bottom of the ocean in their scuba gear to make you that basket.
Yeah. There it is.
Don't at me, Home Goods. Anyways, but like, so if you're listening to this, and if this just does like bring up all of the PTSD of 2016 all over again, there are so many different ways. Thank God for the internet. There's something that nobody ever thought that we'd say, but I believe it. Go type it like one thing that you like and just try. There are meetups, there are Discord communities, there are Facebook groups, like whatever, any which way, just try it out. I think you'd be surprised who you could meet and how much happier you could be. There's my solution oriented cherry for you.
Take Allison's advice. Do that. And we have heard every single excuse. It is almost impossible not to build role-playing games up in people's heads until you play one. Yeah. You just can't. You can't. It just seems so undoable, impossible if you don't have, a degree in theater and improv. None of that is true, though. And I wish, if there's one thing I could wish, is that I could wave a magic wand and anyone who is like, yeah, but I'm afraid of that, I don't think I'd be good at it.
Those people that are listening, I'm going to give you the same advice that somebody gave me when I said that there's a reason I don't choose what are called high intelligence characters in D&D. Right? Like I don't ever play a wizard because wizards are smart, and I'm not dumb. I'm not like, but I'm not like a book nerd, right? Like that's just not my thing. You don't have to be. That's why tabletop role-playing games exist. So you can embody something that you are not. You just let the dice do it. You don't have to actually have the answer to the riddle. All you have to do is say, would my character be able to solve this riddle? And then the dungeon master says, yeah, roll a blank check. And then you just roll a die. And you either fail it and they go, nope, you couldn't solve the riddle, or you succeeded and they go, yeah, here's the answer to the riddle. Or if you're, being strong and you want to break something, or if you want to give a scintillating performance and see how charismatic you are. Yeah. You don't have to actually do the things. I was like 3 years into my tabletop role-playing game journey before I realized. I thought I had to solve the riddle. I thought I had to know the answer. You don't. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we played this beautiful game called Tin Candles the other day, and Tin Candles is very simple. The mechanics are really, really lovely and I mean, solid as a rock, but it's a one shot. There is no campaign in Tin Candles. So you have these tiny little scenarios that you start off with, but the end result is always your character is going to die. Yeah. But there can be any amount of scenarios that would get you to your own death. Yeah. And one of them, I wanted to give Lindsay, my wife, a couple of options, just, so that she, if she wanted to feel a little bit more prepared. And I read her one about scientists trying to escape a bunker to get to another lab. And they would run into all kinds of dangers once they left the bunker because the evil creatures that are going to destroy the world would be out there. And she was like, but I just don't know anything about science. I'm like, yeah, I remember when I felt that way. You really don't have to know. And well, okay, let's bring it back. Why have I not played a paladin? Because I still feel like I don't know anything about religion. I can't speak to that easily. That's just so not. We're
just gonna have you roll some religion checks or some history checks, and that's so all. The GM of our Alexandria campaign. I just am forever rolling history and religion. Yep. I don't actually have to, and as you like, that's starting level, right? And as you level, like you do begin to learn how to tell a story, and you do get excited when the GM calls on you and says, tell me what this was like, or describe that encounter, like, but you don't have to start there. That's where you're building towards, if that's enjoyable for you. And if it's not, then you're going to play your own flavor of game.
Thanks to TTRPGs, I speak perfect Russian now.
Yes. You bot.
Duh.
I knew. It's you. You did this.
No, but that, of course, that is not true. But there are so many things I know about now that I did not, that I learn because of a character or a background. What's a furbolg?
Yeah.
I know what a furbolg is. Well, this is good. I feel this is good.
Free therapy for me.
Free therapy for us. And hopefully, again, people that are listening to this, and apply it to what you want,
Yeah.
Again, grief is grief. Grief is grief. So, it's going to come at you because you're a human being.
Grifter's going to grift, and griever's got to grieve.
Griever's got to grieve. So whether or not you're upset about this particular happening, just go play some games.
Just go play some
games. We think it'll help you.
Solved another conundrum, all with the magic of ADHD plus TTRPGs. Check that box. Well, Matthew, thanks for letting me be on your podcast.
Thank you, Allison, for letting me be on your podcast and for being a part of something that has absolutely allowed me to be stronger in this time of sadness.
Chaos and sadness.
Yeah.
We're going to get through this with each other and all of our weird
Of course we are. See, I am so not worried about it. I'm going to fight for the people. If anybody gets taken advantage of, I'm going to fight for them. And then the rest of the time, I'm going to take care of myself. That's what's going to happen. Take that.
You get a round of applause. Yay!
ADHd20 is a creation from The Pocket Dimension, a multiverse where we explore neurospice,
rolling dice,
and so much more. Come chat with us in our Discord server, open to all. The join link is in our show notes.
Ready to level up your support? Check out the Pocket Dimensions Patreon, where you can get access to bonus content, be the first to hear new episodes, and even play TTRPGs with us and our friends.
The best way you can help us, though, is just to share the gift of ADHd20 with the people that you think will like it.
We love that you're here. Thank you for entering the Pocket Dimension.